Hi, Carolina. Great start. Really good job. Jeannie looks fantastic. Nice work. Okay. I think that, I think it's pretty obviously Jeannie is the most well developed of all of the portraits thus far. And that's really because she's got the outfit, and there's a lot of things developed here that are not quite addressed yet. Like, for example, you've addressed some of the highlights of the clothing area, and the others, the clothing are just basic shapes. So we really need to develop that clothes. I mean, that the developing the clothing area and like developing folds in the clothes and depicting movement through the outfit is really, really going to make a big difference. I think another area that needs a lot more detail is the face, specifically depicting shadow highlight, which will help develop the contours of the face, which of course will help develop the depth dimension and the volume associated with each of the individual portraits. So really work on those shadow highlight areas. Um, and one thing I noticed is in your eyes, the eyes, you're not using much hard line at all. So basically, using hardline is going to increase contrast, especially in the eyes. And you've got four female characters, presumably all wearing eye makeup, right? So you really want to enhance that. I would add a little black hardline around. Let me show you an example. Natalie's got an example where see how much more contrast you get out of the eyes when you actually use hardline to depict the shapes of the eyes. So this is a wonderful example right there. So I think that yours could definitely use that addition, and then also the specular highlight in the actual eye itself. That's a reflection, and that's going to really bring a big bit of visual engagement to the eye area. The hair is pretty underdeveloped. I think we really need to start developing the use of texture in the hair, specifically not the texture as you know it, but more depicting the shape and contour and the way the hair flows by using different elemental lines. Let me give you an example right here's a great example. Um, Another thing I want to mention is that the depiction of shadow and highlight area, if you come over here to, this is the Welcome to Week 3 announcement, and there's some really great resources in here. There's like eight or 10 videos here. There's two right here, okay, and then here's another six, and then here's two more down here that are more tutorials. So you really want to take a look at those and start developing to a much higher degree the really fine detail associated with these portraits, specifically shadow and highlight area, detail in all of the areas, detail in the clothing, depicting movement. So shadows in the clothing that might depict movement in the clothing, shadow and highlight areas in the face for sure, and then hair and the development of the hair. So right now I think the main underdeveloped areas are the hair and the clothing in all four examples. And of course, Jeannie is more well developed than some of the others. So, but still, to a high degree, we need much more detail in the hair and highlight shadow areas in the face, and then depicting movement by showing folds in the clothing. Um, One other thing there's a couple of, I think you're having a little bit of issue and difficulty with the nose. I think that there's this kind of line for the nose. I think you really need to determine how you're going to do that. I think right now maybe the fact that the line is black is drawing too much attention to that area. So think about how you can maybe work that in more seamlessly, that the depiction of the nose. So that area needs a little bit of work as well. And again, those tutorials are a wonderful way to learn how to depict as such. These are some really great examples too. Now this, I'm right now in Project 3, Iconic American Entertainer Post Stamp Continue stage. And these aren't really tutorials per se. They're more like just watching the artist work. But the technique is definitely shown here. So note the shadow highlight areas, note the texture in the hair, note the detail and the clothing. The clothing almost has movement based on the lines from the wrinkles of the clothes and the way that the clothing is kind of conforming to the shape of the body. And we see that here, and then here as well. So here's another three wonderful videos. And then, of course, this example here. This is interesting because it doesn't show much shadow highlight area in the face itself, but the facial characteristics are so well developed. And this little shadow right here on the chin really adds a lot of dimension and depth to the illustration. Okay, so great start. Just keep working, keep plugging away. I mean, you'll get there. I promise. It's a really great technique once you start adding a shadow and highlight detail in the hands and things like that. So definitely, just keep working and be sure to look at those resources and let me know if there's any questions I can address as you're working forward in the project. All right, great start. Thank you so much for sharing.